Very good evening, students, and welcome to this 15 minutes or within 15 minutes tourism related lecture series or lecture series for the entrant students in tourism and travel management. Friends, as per our commitment in this today's session, we shall be able to talk about the basics of tourism. Therefore, today in this small video, we are going to talk something very basic, and that is we need to answer, or we would be able to answer, what is tourism is and what all are the reasons why we used to call it the interdisciplinary subject. So friends, without any delay, this useful video session for the newcomers, new joinee in the field of tourism and travel management at both UG and PG level at Indian universities and different programs of academic reputation for the masters and the undergraduates. We are going to start about a basic discussion on what is tourism. Friends, in terms of as a layman or as a person who is new into this discipline, you must have think or you must have a thought that what is tourism is all about. Most of the time, if we are defining the term tourism, we find that tourism is basically an activity, or tourism is the act of doing something for the fun, leisure, or fun oriented activity. Or it may also be defined as the term of movement. So, if we are segregating or if we are approaching tourism into 360-degree approach, we shall be able to understand this phenomena far better. In terms of general explanation, tourism is nothing but a kind of movement of people or study of movement of people from one place to the another. So this particular way, we will be able to talk about those movements which are basically conducted by the mankind for the purpose of the important urge of non-day-to-day activities. That meant for if I am going to travel to one place to the another for the purpose of non-habitant or habitual activity or day-to-day activity, I may be called up as tourist. So tourism may be defined as the movement, but what kind of movement here we need to talk about? In terms of movement, we need to also understand if we are talking about the move, it is a movement, what typical kind of movement within where or what criteria of physical environment or surroundings we are moving through, and what all are the passes through or passage by which we are moving. So these are certain important things to be talked about. If we are talking about the movement or study of movement of mankind is an assessment by the name of tourism, then their behavior or their actions during this particular journey may also be called up as action or tourism related activities. So tourism needs to be understood in a temporary sort of journey where a person, a habitant, is leaving their usual work of residence for the different purpose. Different purpose, what I meant for is he or she need to leave their place for the urge of the change, for the meeting or visiting new place, or to have the cultural viability, knowing new culture, and to get interacted with an environment which is not his or her usual environment. In this particular process, he would be there for that place called destination, from the place which he is the habitant of called origin. So it is basically the journey between origin and destination for the temporary time. That meant for someone who is leaving the origin or habitat for the place called destination, he or she will get back to that particular place. In this term, we are defining term tourism by the name of movement of temporary nature for the sake of change, and this temporary visit needs to be adhered by the compulsory transportation of certain amenities which needs to be taken care by the host community. So tourism basically is not a single term to be defined with, it is a phenomena to be talked about. On a other note, we can state tourism is sum total of phenomena by which a person or an individual or group of individual is leaving his or her place to visit the other place for time being. Here, time being meant for it is not permanent, it is not residential, rather, it is just for the purpose of a time instant. What does this time period is all about? Later, once we are clarifying the concepts of tourism, we shall be able to understand this better. Though it should be more than that of one night or 24 hours, and it should be restricted to a limited amount of less than 1 year or less than 6 months consecutively later on by the academicians of tourism. So tourism is basically a movement as we have talked about, but this movement may be defined and dealt with a different type of purposes by which a traveler is traveling to the place. Now, once we are talking about tourism, we are talking about study of the movement and what sort of study this will gives us the different kinds, types, and forms of tourism which may be discussed further. On the Good evening, students. So, we are here in this video session or small video session where we are going to talk about the nature of tourism studies, that is, interdisciplinary nature of this particular discipline. Now, as a student, you must be aware that tourism is a phenomena which is a multidisciplinary phenomena. So, to deal with this subject, you need to be well versed with the other subject. And as far as this particular understanding, let us try to understand those approach by which the tourism academia or tourism discipline is being made up from. As far as interdisciplinary approach of studying tourism is an approach by making this stream clear. As a student or new entrant, we need to understand there are certain elements which become important to be studied at different levels, and these are, first of all, it should be approached in an institutional approach. Tourism as an a subject matter which is institutional in nature, and therefore we may adopt, there are different institutional opportunities for learning and revising this concept of tourism and tourism related allied areas. This may be called up as or count up as product approach, because tourism is the sum total of different entities, which may also be called up as a phenomena called product. So some or the other way, it is having a product approach. Then it comes to dealing with the different kinds of people. This is a different kind of individuals, so it have got managerial approach into it. That meant for if you are dealing with new people, meeting them, greeting them, or allowing them in a space in your society, or having reflection from same, they have dealt with by the managerial approach. Same as an economic approach followed by a cost benefit approach or sociological approach also to be followed, because tourism itself is being defined as an activity of socio-economic nature. So whenever there's a tourist, there is an exchange, some benefits that needs to be analyzed by investing into the tourism enterprise, and this enterprise needs to be availed at a level of cost benefit analysis by the approach, and then the society needs to be benefited at some level so that the and social economic benefits can be approached by the students. So as an academic discipline, it have got different approaches altogether. What all are the other important approaches dealt with this particular discipline as geographical approach, environmental approach, historical and interdisciplinary approach. As far as three major approaches are concerned, geographical approaches, anything or everything that we have studied into the context of tourism that needs to be assessed by the name of movement, and any movement is geospatial. Nothing is beyond that of geography. So geographical interpretation or approach of tourism is to be considered most prominently. Geography is an outcome of the environment, and environment is also being closely associated with this discipline, and therefore environmental approach of the tourism to be closely associated with this academic discipline. As far as historical approach, it is not last, it is maybe last but not the least. It is most important footprints when we are evaluating the different historical footprints of mankind where they have got the movement or movements of patterns. So, in large, we can state that tourism is an interdisciplinary phenomena. It have got so much of interpretations by the name of different type of interdisciplinary approaches into it. So as a student or as a learner, we need to adopt all such subject areas, discipline altogether in a reflection of tourism. And therefore, tourism has been associated with many disciplines altogether. And that is what the nature of tourism's interdisciplinary phenomenon. Hope this particular video session will give you more insights about tourism. We are more to come with some this sort of videos by which within 15 minutes learning we can brush up our concepts related to tourism. So stay connected and do watch Gyandhara for such video sessions further. Till then, it's time to say goodbye. Namaskar. Thank you. Good night.